welcome to yearofhitchcockmovies.com. We are your hosts, Jeff and Diane, and this is movie number 17 from 1939, Jamaica Inn. And we've got two big name stars in this movie, and pirates. This is our final British film before Hitchcock finally goes off to Hollywood and has this incredible career making all these great movies that we're real excited about that are coming up. And there are a few things that make this film very unique, other than the fact that there's pirates in this one. Number one is this is a period piece. This is a costume drama. And of the 53 or so movies that Alfred Hitchcock made over his career, he didn't make very many period pieces. There's this one, there's Under Capricorn, maybe The Farmer's Wife, because it seems a lot of horse and buggies in that. Tough to say, and Waltzes from Vienna, which we didn't review because it's not available yet on DVD. He was more about what was going on at the time, and all of his movies, except for these ones, are set in present day at the time. The other thing that makes this movie unique is that it is directed by Alfred Hitchcock, but it's a Charles Laughton film. It was produced by his company, Mayflower Pictures, and we'll talk more about that at the end of the movie because it's very, very interesting. So at this point in 1938, we've finished with The Lady Vanishes. Hitchcock is basically under contract to go work for David O. Selznick and make millions of dollars in these great movies, starting with Rebecca. But it doesn't really start until 1939. So an earlier conversation he had with Charles Laughton, who he had met at a dinner in 1936, Charles had said to Alfred Hitchcock, do you want to make a movie with us? Who's us? Well, it was his production company that he owned with Eric Palmer. Is it Eric Palmer? Who is none other than the producer of those great Fritz Lang films, including Metropolis from 1927. And so, with nothing to do till the summer of 1939, Alfred Hitchcock decided to make a movie with Charles Laughton's production company. Now, just to say, this is the end of Phase 2. Remember when we said we were done with all those crazy silent films and we were starting Phase 2? We started that with The Man Who Knew Too Much, and boy, we had a good run. Wasn't that fun? Well, this is it. End of Phase 2. We're starting Phase 3 next week, which we're probably going to call the Golden Hollywood period. But first we have to finish with this movie with Charles Laughton. We're based on Daphne du Maurier's book called Jamaica Inn that she had written in 1936, so she published in 1936. It was a big success, this book was, and it paved the way for her huge bestseller, Rebecca, which she wrote a couple of years later. She also wrote the short story The Birds, so that's 3 movies that Alfred Hitchcock makes from Daphne du Maurier books. And this Jamaica Inn makes for some interesting reading, no question about it. There's some nice differences from the movie. The book is set in her home. Her favorite place was Cornwall, the coast of southwest England. We're in the early 1800s, 1820 or so. And there's a group of thieves and pirates, and what they do is they lure in ships, and the ships crash and sink. But before the ships crash and sink, they climb aboard, kill everybody, and steal whatever happens to be the cargo. And this gang of pirates lives at Jamaica Inn. A young girl, played by Maureen O'Hara, her mother dies in Ireland, and she's sent to live with her aunt and uncle in Cornwall, who live at Jamaica Inn. Jamaica Inn actually is a real inn. It's a real place in Cornwall. This is where it is. This is what it looks like today. And apparently it's got some neat history. There were smugglers, and there's an interesting history going on with this place. People make pilgrimages to go to it, to check it out. It is a very famous place. So once this orphan comes to discover there are pirates living in this inn, and there's actually one of the pirates is being hung by the other pirates. She rescues this pirate, and he and her run off to the local magistrate, the local judge, to tell them there's pirates, and basically there's your movie. So who are these big stars? Well, Charles Laughton, obviously. Now he plays Sir Humphrey Pengallan, who's the judge, the local law, the justice of the peace, I guess. Charles Laughton, if you don't know, he was already a huge name at this point. mostly because of the movie Mutiny on the Bounty, but not just that movie. He was in some other huge movies, which won Best Picture in 1935, the same year that the 39 Steps came out. And he's also, if you've seen Hunchback of Notre Dame, he's Quasimodo, or Quasimodo, or however you want to pronounce it. And what a trip that is. We highly recommend, if you like this, and if you like Charles Laughton, and you've not seen Hunchback of Notre Dame, watch that after you've seen him be, you know, not Quasimodo, because the man can act. Hunchback of Notre Dame actually was the same year that Jamaica Inn was made. It was a big Hollywood movie done by RKO Pictures. He was Captain Bligh in The Mutiny on the Bounty with Clark Gable from 1935, and he's so good in that because you're rooting against him, you hate him, then suddenly you're rooting for him and you love him, and then suddenly you're rooting against him and you hate him. That's a special actor to pull that off. The second big star in this movie, she wasn't a big star yet, but Maureen O'Hara. So this is pretty much her big first starring role. She was 18 years old because Charles Laughton discovered her. She did a screen test, which I'm not sure if we can see. I should have looked at that YouTube, see if we can see it. Apparently it's not a very good screen test, but he happened upon it, and he was transfixed by her eyes, the beauty of her eyes. He immediately signed her to a deal and cast her as the star in tonight's movie, Jamaica Inn, and she did so well in that he cast her as the starring role Esmeralda in The Hunchback of Notre Dame. So if you watch that after this, you're going to see them both in that movie too. Boy, did she become a big star. She went on to just a fabulous Hollywood. She's still alive, actually. She's 91 now. But by 1941, she was in the Best Picture movie How Green Was My Valley. A lot of people might remember her. She was Natalie Wood's mother in Miracle on 34th Street. But to me, she's in all those great John Ford movies. 5 movies I think she starred in with John Wayne, and just a delightful person in real life, and wow, we get to see her in her very first movie today. But not before Charles Laughton changed her name. Her name was Maureen Fitzsimmons, and if I'm not mistaken, he felt that was too long for the marquee, so he gave her a choice, Maureen O'Hara or Maureen O'Mara. She didn't like either of them, so he just picked Maureen O'Hara. Very interesting. So there you go. Also in this film is Robert Newton. He's the guy that she rescues from being hanged. He's a pirate. The actor is Robert Newton. Well, he's the original pirate because he is Long John Silver in Walt Disney's Treasure Island. Arr, Jamaicans, you know, this fellow, and he's in it. Also look for Basil Radford, who was in Young and Innocent and briefly in Lady Vanishes. No, he was Charters in Lady Vanishes. And Leslie Banks, he plays her uncle. She comes to Jamaica Inn to live with her aunt and uncle, and Leslie Banks plays her uncle. Leslie Banks was the father in The Man Who Knew Too Much, and if you remember, he's the guy that had the scarring on the left side of his face from the accident that he had in World War I. I don't think it was an accident, but the shrapnel he took in World War I. So in that movie, if you remember all those shots of his right side of his face, and he's playing sort of a villain tonight, so I'm wondering if we're going to see a lot of the scarred left side of his face. Interesting. Also, something else to look for in this film is Charles Laughton's walk. He didn't allow Hitchcock to film him only close-ups for 10 days because he hadn't decided what his walk was going to be. And then finally he came to Alfred Hitchcock and said, okay, I got my walk, here it is. And he kind of waddled and waltzed around the room, and he was waltzing to a tune, a little German waltz he had playing in his head. And that's what you're going to see, this neat little waltz. So now there's no cameo to look for in tonight's movie, and I think that's it. After this, he's in all the movies, but we will see a final appearance by Claire Greet. She dies in 1939, so we don't hear from her again. She was in 7 Hitchcock movies, more than anyone else other than Alfred Hitchcock. So this film from 1939, a year that has been called the most outstanding year in film, a year that we saw Gone with the Wind, The Wizard of Oz, and a whole bunch of other really great movies, 1939, and of course, Jamaica Inn from 1939. So let's watch.